YouTube, what up? Welcome back to Channeladriantv, and y'all know me as Adrian. But before we get into today's video, y'all know what y'all need to do. Subscribe to the channel, like and comment on the videos. Also follow me on Rumble where I post. And if you see anything you want me to react to, sports, the dynamics between men and women, or an Ask Adrian question about your own personal life, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can hit me up on one of my social media platforms. They'll be pinned in the description. Now, as you see the title of the video, I talk about how a 5-minute decision pretty much messed up this young man's life. Now, y'all have heard me say in a few of my videos of how you need to learn how to control your emotions and how making decisions based off emotions can ruin your life. So I have a story of a man who actually talks about that, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts about it and cover some points of why I always preach you can't be emotional and you need to learn how to control your emotions, and I'm going to react to a few comments. But first, I'm going to put the story up on the screen and read it to you. 5 minutes cost me 10 years plus of my life because I made a permanent decision off temporary emotion. 1 minute, thought of being disrespected. 3 minutes, brawl in the club. 1 minute, shooting. 20-year prison bid. Missed my son's birth and 10 birthdays. Missed my daughter's birthdays from 6 to 15. 15K in legal costs. One emotional decision that took 5 minutes to execute took almost 10 years away from me and my kids. Be careful when making decisions in the motion. The trade-off is really worth it. That's a sad story, and it's something always common that you kind of see. Someone feels like they've been disrespected. People start talking to each other, tempers start to flare, and it goes to violence. And he talked about how just in 5 minutes, his whole entire life was completely changed. But let's go over a few things of what I've always said to why, making emotional decisions can hurt you in the long run. Number one, acting on impulse. When you use your emotions and you make a decision and you're acting immediately off of impulse, you're not thinking about the long-term consequences. For example, think about this man in this example. He lost 10 years plus of his life just because of a reckless decision. This is why men and women, let me tell you this, people that are so quick to jump and ruin their whole life off something small, you need to stop hanging around them. Now, I understand if you need to protect yourself. I believe people should be able to protect themselves if they feel threatened. But if it's not that big of a deal, you're better off letting your little ego get hurt and walk away. Because I guarantee you, if he could go back to that day or that night, he definitely wouldn't have made this decision if he known it would have led to this. Another reason why I say you shouldn't make emotional decisions is, like he said in this, you're going to regret it. Like he said, literally, it only took 5 minutes to make a rash decision like that, to where he's pretty much losing a majority of his life and also a majority of his sons and daughters' lives while they're continuing to grow up. He's missing the important stages of that. Now, to any parent, I'm pretty sure you understand how hard that is. So I can only imagine what he's going through when he's behind the cell, missing his children. And another reason why you shouldn't make emotional decisions is because of the financial consequences. For example, he's in 15K debt and legal fees. And it applies not only to this situation, to other situations. You could say someone who has a gambling problem or someone who's making investments. It's even if when you lose money or in anything, you should not be thinking emotionally. Always think about the pros and cons, and you gotta think level-headed. Now, I know that's easier said than done, because I know a lot of people who do struggle from making emotional decisions. But I feel one of my best traits, and I hope a trait that you all can learn and develop, is I know not to make emotional decisions. That's why I always say what I mean, and I mean what I say. A lot of people can't say that because so many people say stuff off emotions and then try to run back and apologize for it. But if you didn't make an emotional decision and you were actually based in your logic and thinking, you would actually say what you need to say without having to apologize all the time. And that's another red flag that I think a lot of young men and women should look out for. If that person is always making emotional decisions and turning back around a few days or a few weeks or whatever the case may be and apologizing, you know from that point on that person has no control over their emotions. And another reason why I say you shouldn't make emotional decisions, it can ruin your life. This example, and I know there's a lot of examples of people you may know, or relatives, friends, family, who made rash and emotional decisions that changed their life. It doesn't have to be jail. It could be literally having a child with someone and they're not father or mother type material. And that's one of the things I'm very big on, because a lot of people ask me, how come you don't have kids? I am very picky about who I would want to decide and choose to be the mother of my children. I don't understand how people, to be honest with you, after having talks with people, it's like I put more of being the parent and the person by your side on the pedestal more than the majority of people. Because when I talk about these things, they kind of think about it, they think about it and they say, I never thought about it. Or they'll say, I never thought about it like that. I'm like, but I'll think to myself, you're bringing a child in this world. To me, there is nothing more serious or more important, or one of the most, how can I say this? One of the most important decisions you can make in your life is deciding to bring a child in this world, and how are you going to protect, provide, and also lead it. But yeah, those were a few reasons of why I continue to say, men and women, you should not make emotional decisions. So let me go over a few commenters' comments. One commenter said, a whole decade gone in a flash. Wild how one hot minute can rewrite your life script. And that's true. That covers the first point I said about making an impulse decision without thinking about the long-term consequences. Another commenter said, be careful when making decisions and emotions. The trade-off is rarely worth it. And I agree with that. That's why I said you have to find a way, whatever your way of decompressing emotion and being able to process through it, regardless if you're a man or a woman, you need to learn your best way to battle that. Now, for me, I've been in situations, especially at work, where tempers can flare, but like I said, I'm experienced enough to where I can control that, to where I'll say what I need to say and I mean what I need to say. Another commenter said, it's okay for men to have emotions or be emotional. We need to do a better job of teaching people how to control them and properly deal with them. And I agree with that. But this is what I say all the time. If the leader of the family, regardless if it's the mother or father, if they're bad with their emotions, odds are the child is going to be bad as well. This is why I always say, because people always wonder why I say you should want to be with a winner. You should want to be with a leader. You should want to be with the most well-rounded person as possible. Now, people will say to me, well, Adrian, you're not going to find Mr. Perfect or Mrs. Perfect, but your job is to, because odds are your kids are going to be like you and your wife, or you and your husband, or whatever the relationship dynamic is. And overall, this is a sad story, but like I've said, one of the best traits I have is learning from people's mistakes. And hopefully a lot of you who are watching this learn from people's mistakes as well. Y'all remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't make emotional decisions.